Leprosy is a disease that leaves people with a lot of residual abnormalities or deformities like hands and feet, which are visible, and we call them grade 2 disabilities. Because their disabilities are visible, they are the source of stigma, and hence they are looked in a different light in the society. If a woman has this, it causes a double jeopardy, that's we call in clinical language. So we know that these women are having a problem physically, but is there a mental or an emotional link to that? That is what we want to study in this small project, and it's a purely qualitative study wherein we only do interviews with women living with disability. Our criteria is that they have to live with it for a year, so that they have understood and negotiated different walks of life. And we have taken women with different age groups: unmarried younger women, married women with small children, old single women whose family has left them or children have gone out to work to different cities and they are living all alone, negotiating lives on their own. So we have a wide variation of ages, and we've looked at what is it that they felt when they were diagnosed and said that it was leprosy. And then what is it that they felt when they said that it was a deformity which would stay for the rest of their lives. Now, some of the deformity would have been corrected, so they have also come into the study, and the findings are quite different from the ones that have not been able to be corrected. There are some who have been living with ulcers, so their experiences are again unique. We did 20 interviews, and we had girls, we had women, and the things that came out of it was at several levels people had difficulties. The physical level is something that we know that they had to keep on repeating repeated hospital visits, hospital admissions, and it's interesting to know that they would be taken almost when things became unbearable or the visibility was so much that it couldn't be hidden anymore. That told us a lot about the dependence of women on the male folk or somebody more senior decision maker to take them to the hospital. The second thing is, nobody wanted to get admitted because that would mean that there would be a gap in the household work. That means despite women having so much of problems, they still have to continue to do the housework. They still have to do their responsibilities. So we looked at their roles as daughters, daughters-in-law, mothers, wives, grandmother, and we found everybody had their own sufferings in their own realm. And the most important thought that came to their minds were, each of them in their own role said that they were not living up to the expectations of the role. First is they have set their own expectations. That is something they are not able to meet. Then they also know that the family member has an expectations. They feel that they are not able to satisfy the family member. So in the rural community, when they are not satisfying the expectations of the spouse or the in-laws, the continuous anxiety of being told, go back to your parents' place, or I leave you, or the fear in their minds that soon I will not be loved and there will be a second woman coming into the house. So these are the fears that they constantly live with, the anxiety. And that again is a vicious cycle that prevents them from functioning as they should. Then we also had to deal with a lot of intimate questions. We wanted to understand the relationships between spouses and how it was affected. And it very clearly came out that if it is a man who is having this problem, the woman, no matter what, is faithful. But if it is a woman, there are more chances of unfaithfulness and separations. And we had told there were laws which have been repealed now, that a spouse once getting this disease cannot divorce. It's against the law. That's what has been repealed now. But nobody gets a divorce in rural communities. They just separate. So where does the law come in? Nobody can go to any lawmaker and ask for any help. Then there is this constant fear as to who's going to take care of me when I become even more useless. Useless means even more when I'm not able to do the household activities. Now I'm still able to take care of my children, or I'm able to cook, or I'm able to wash. What will happen if my disabilities increase? Because ulcers and deformities at one point worsen, deformities become stiff, and the flexibility of the hands come down. What is going to happen to me? On the flip side again, there were a lot of positive stories. The one positive story which was very, very heartwarming for me was there was this lady who was about 37 years old, who lived with an ulcer for the last 17 to 20 years, and she wants an amputation. It's so bad. But we as clinicians never want to amputate. We want to give them the ability to live with that, but also to live with dignity. And there were discussions going on. We found out what was happening, and she apparently stays with her sister and sister's husband, who have given her to stay. But her brother and her mother are together. Brother cannot feed another dependent person. So we asked her, how do you cope? She said, I cry. I cry where nobody is around. I go to the rooftop and I cry, and then I pray and I come down and I'm fine. That's how I'm going ahead. Then there was also stories about help, support from the family. The children, the boys, the teenage boys understood what the mother is going through, and they supported. Some supported in drawing water from the well. Some supported just drying the clothes on the clothesline. Some supported the taking out the hot pan from the fire. It's a wooden fire or a coal fire, so you have to go near where the ground is also hot. Some supported in that. So there was a lot of heartwarming stories that people do support. There's a lot of change in the behavior among people also. There are stories where we had one story where the woman had died because there was so much neglect. So there are diverse stories, but when we bring them together, we understand these problems better, and we understand from one lady or one woman the coping abilities. Maybe apply those coping abilities to another woman. Every woman's situation is different, but we don't know, somebody might benefit from somebody's coping skills. So that's what the aim of the study was, not only to understand what they go through, but how do they negotiate it. And the ones who are overcomers, we learn from those overcoming strategies and try to build in some methods to teach the other people who are going through similar situations that this is how you might be able to cope. And also for those who are not able to cope, to understand why is it that they are not able to cope and what more can be done for them. And maybe the next step of the next study or a project that would be designed is to answer the why and what, especially the what, which could come from them. It would be a participatory project, and if it comes from them, then definitely it would be useful and applicable to them. So this is what this project is about. Well, this is a small study and in a small geography. India is huge and it has a lot of cultural diversities. This is from a fairly liberal, not very orthodox society. So it would be good to see how women negotiated more orthodox societies and more secular and more. So it would be good to have a multicentric to understand more. But I guess if people find this relevant, they could do smaller studies. This took us about 15 months. No, I mean the whole entire thing is designed for 15 months. 6 months to 8 months is enough for data collection and the rest. So if somebody wants to understand, they could use the questionnaires that we have developed, see the methodology, replicate it, and look for their own solutions in their own communities. And this would very much apply to any stigmatizing disease. This is where there is a physical deformity or maybe a chronicity involved, where people have to keep continuously going to the hospital and visiting doctors, which is quite a burden on economic thing also. So I would probably think that if people liked this study or the project, they would need to replicate it with their own culture.